So I've made a couple of videos recently talking about the new Jaguar adverts and how they didn't feature the car and how they were basically sort of woke diversity parades of people promoting a brand of politics rather than promoting a vehicle. And the new concept images for the vehicle were leaked just ahead of the reveal, and everyone was like, oh, we can see why you weren't featuring the car in the adverts. This is weird, isn't it? Like, this is the concept image. These are 3D renderings. But as I'll show you in a minute, these do look just like the car. And I'm just really baffled at the market that they're aiming for. So here are the actual cars revealed in Miami. And it's weird that this looks like a gender reveal party, isn't it? Like, okay, so we've got baby blue and sort of girly pink. And it's like, okay, that's weird. So what is with this presentation? Again, we covered in the last video how Jaguar's design team appears to be insanely woke, which is why we have the sort of archaic postmodern woke advert. And now we have what is essentially an archaic postmodern woke car. Here's a video from Sky News, if I can play it, just of the actual thing in Miami. And I don't know, man. I'm looking at this and thinking, right, okay, so are you aiming for the sort of audience that watched Barbie? Is that what we're going for? Like, who is this meant to be appealing to? Who is the audience? Do you see, like, very rich, young-ish men buying this car? Or conversely, do you see very rich, young women buying this car? Because it's weirdly unfeminine, and yet it's still weirdly feminine. Like, the car itself seems to be having an identity crisis. I don't want to go on and make further jokes about modern politics and these cars, but it's evident that modern politics has informed these cars. And we now have a product that seems to be essentially woke ideology reified in the automobile industry. It's a very strange thing. And I can't help but notice it looks like a kind of feminized version of the Tesla. Like Elon, of the Cybertruck. Elon brought out the Cybertruck and everyone's like, oh, I hate it. It's too masculine. It's got pointed edges. It looks too essentially brutish, I think is what the main complaint was. And at first, I didn't like the Tesla Cybertruck either. But to be honest with you, it did grow on me after a while. I was like, yeah, no, that I am starting to get sort of Demolition Man, sort of 90s sci-fi vibes out of it, which doesn't surprise me given Elon Musk's age. You know, he's the kind of guy who probably grew up watching a bunch of 90s sci-fi. But this, I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. It doesn't do it for me at all. And even have they got the blue one? Yeah, they've got the blue one. But again, the blue one just seems a bit, I don't know, just don't know how to describe it in a way that's not, you know, offensive. We'll get banned from everything. But yeah, so I'm looking at this and thinking, right, okay. So the first thing, this looks like the product of woke product design, right? It's not attractive. There are functional questions. I don't like the fact that it hasn't got a rear view mirror, and it has to have, I assume it's got a camera that projects onto the rear view in the car. There's something about that I don't like. I think I should be able to see it with my own eyes, but whatever. That's a really small, minor, pedantic and petty detail. It doesn't look good. And so, okay, fine, maybe I'm just not the target audience. But then, well, who is the target audience? I mean, with Tesla's Cybertruck, you can tell who the target audience is. It's the kind of Elon Musk fanboy target audience. Affluent men who are aspirational and like Elon's can-do attitude, the get-it-done tech bro attitude. And there are probably loads of people working for Google on like $200K a year who are like super advanced systems engineers who have bought a bunch of these, right? I bet that's like the average market. Well, who's the average market for this? Again, it's an electric car, but is it going to be like a high-powered muscle electric car? Is that what women want? And is that why you've got it in like Barbie pink and baby blue? Like, is that like who are you appealing to here? Who is the audience? But also, you remember in the advert, they're like, yeah, copy nothing. It's like, well, okay, it looks like you've kind of copied and modified the Cybertruck a bit. But also, a lot of people are pointing out this looks like a lot of other cars, like the Rolls-Royce Phantom 7. Now, I just want to be clear, I'm not a car guy. I don't have any inside or expert knowledge on cars. So you guys can correct me. There's also the Rolls-Royce Spectre, which is an electric car itself. And actually, if you look at it, it does look a lot more like the Spectre, doesn't it? Let's see if I can get the front bumper up again. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing it. Definitely seeing it. There we are. Yeah, I can definitely see why people are like, wow, when you said copy nothing, you meant copy Rolls-Royce, right? And dumb it down a bit. Make it less macho. Make it less cool. Make it less edgy. Okay, fine. Well, I mean, hey, man, bring to the market whatever you can bring to the market and see if it sells, right? But on a kind of personal note, I'm looking at this being like, oh, man, look how they massacred my boy. Because, like I said, I'm not a car guy, but everyone has their favorite kind of car. And mine were always Jaguars, man. Jaguars were good looking cars, like classic British cars that had real grace about them. And as I said, I don't know anything about cars. I just look at it and go, yeah, that's an attractive car. And you've got the C-Type, which I was never a big fan of, or the sort of ones from, I think it's from the 60s, yeah, the early 60s and 70s. I was never a big fan of those ones. The E-Type was all right. It was this one that I particularly liked, because you'd be like, okay, well, that's not a sports car. No, I know it's not a sports car. It just looks classy, right? For me, this is the epitome of British class in cars. This is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Like, it's appropriately masculine, but it's not excessive and almost kind of effervescent. It's restrained but classy, and it looks, again, it just looks beautiful. And I bet it drives like a dream. I bet the upholstery is lovely. I don't mind the other ones. I mean, you can go down. I mean, that you've obviously got like more sleek types that themselves, again, very classic in their design. And Jaguar has a certain kind of look. In fact, that one looks kind of like a big cat, doesn't it? And so when you go back to these ones, you're like, right, okay, I do feel that you have lost something of the spirit of the company itself. And there's nothing wrong with having this kind of aesthetic spirit in it. In fact, this is why they were a desirable car type in the first place. But when you strip that away, when you're like, okay, no, we're going to be minimalist, we're going to be postmodern, we are going to be gender ambiguous, we are going to drain away the mythos of the Jaguar, and not, because what you're selling with these is not just the car itself. What you're selling is the image. What you're selling is the projection of a lifestyle, of a kind of person who lives in a certain way and has achieved certain things in the world. And when you drain that away, well, you're left with merely the product itself. And if merely the product itself is not an artistic or technological marvel, which I personally really do not think that this is an artistic marvel. I don't know whether it's a technological marvel, because I don't know anything about cars. I'm sure it works perfectly well, but when you don't have the same spirit, the same aesthetic to it, and you are essentially beginning from square one, well, now you have to persuade the sort of postmodern, gender ambiguous rich kid that this is in fact the car that they want. Now, I guess you're going to have to do that by being oppositional to those forces which are not woke. You're going to have to do it by saying, look, the not woke people hate this car, so you have to buy this car. And the thing is, that only obtains as long as those people give a damn. Like, as long as people like me keep making videos like this, that's how long that's going to work for. When the people of a particular political persuasion that you're trying to appeal to are like, oh yeah, I'm going to own the chuds by getting this car, which again is a big gamble, I think. I'm not sure how successful that'll be. But until we stop talking about this, that's the life cycle of how far this car is going to go. And I don't really see why I'd make another video about this. This has just been a bit of fun for me. These videos don't take a lot of time to produce. I imagine each one of those Jaguars does. So anyway, just to be clear, like, I don't know how much this is going to cost either. The as far as I'm aware, they haven't released a price tag, but they did say it's going to be a non-production model. So I assume that means it's going to be built to specific orders or something like that. Again, I'm not au fait with the lingo, but if you look at the old sort of E-Type Jaguars, you can look around and they go for like 300 grand still. they're still highly desirable. They are still a very high status car, and you have to be a very high earner to be able to afford one of them. Do we think this car is going to be a high status car long into the future? Or do we think this is going to be in a weird showroom, like a museum of cars in 50, 100 years' time? And people say, oh my God, what was that? It's like, yeah, that was when Jaguar went woke. They got a woke design team and they decided to do a gender reveal for their cars to own the right wing and try and further, in typical deconstructionist postmodern fashion, drain out the life and spirit of what was once a great company.